Welcome to the Pursuit Chronicles, where tales of adventure, discovery, and passion unfold through every inspiring journey. In the crisp autumn of 2015, the ivy-clad walls of Harvard University buzzed with the energy of a new academic year. Among the throngs of students navigating the historic campus was Daniel Nguyen, a 19-year-old prodigy from a modest Vietnamese-American family in San Jose, California. With a full scholarship in computer science, a flawless SAT score, and an IELTS band of 8.5, Daniel was the embodiment of the American dream, a first-generation college student destined for greatness. His professors marveled at his intellect, his peers envied his charisma, and his family pinned their hopes on his inevitable success. But beneath his polished exterior burned an ambition that would one day consume him. Daniel's dorm room in Quincy House was a shrine to his aspirations. Pinned above his desk were articles about Silicon Valley titans, Zuckerberg, Musk, Bezos, men who had bent the world to their will. He spent late nights coding, his laptop screen glowing with algorithms and prototypes, but his mind wandered. To grander visions, he didn't just want to build apps or startups, he wanted to redefine wealth itself. "Why code for pennies when you can code for power?" he scribbled in a notebook one sleepless night. His fascination with finance began. Innocently enough, in a sophomore economics elective, Professor Margaret Ellison introduced him to the world of markets, stocks, derivatives, forex. Daniel was captivated by the chaos of numbers, the pulse of global economies, the way money moved like a living thing. He devoured books on trading, spent hours on Bloomberg terminals, and joined the Harvard Investment Club, where he dazzled older students with his insights. But it was a guest lecture by a hedge fund manager, Victor Callahan, that lit the fuse. Callahan, a slick 40-something with a Rolex glinting on his wrist, spoke of markets as a battlefield where only the cunning survived. "The system rewards those who see what others don't," he said, locking eyes with Daniel. After the lecture, Daniel approached him, his heart pounding. "How do I get into the game?" he asked. Callahan smirked, handing him a business card. "Learn to play. The edges, kid, the real money's in the shadows." That card became Daniel's talisman. He called Callahan, who invited him to a summer internship at Apex Capital, a boutique hedge fund in New York City. The summer of 2017 was a revelation. While his peers slaved over code in Palo Alto or crunched numbers in Boston, Daniel was immersed in the frenetic world of Wall Street. Apex wasn't Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan. It operated in the gray zones, dealing in high-risk derivatives and offshore accounts. Daniel learned to navigate complex financial instruments, charm clients, and spot opportunities where others saw only risk. Callahan took a liking to him, calling him the sharpest intern we've ever had. But Daniel saw something else at Apex. The rules didn't apply to everyone. Callahan and his partners bent regulations, exploited loopholes, and profited handsomely. One night, over drinks at a rooftop bar overlooking Manhattan, Callahan let slip a truth that stuck with Daniel. "The market's a machine, Danny. You can play by its rules and scrape by, or you can hack it and own it." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. He returned to Harvard that fall with a new fire in his eyes. By his senior year, Daniel was a campus legend. He'd launched a YouTube channel, Danny Pips, where he dispensed financial advice with the confidence of a seasoned trader. His videos, shot with slick production values and laced with charisma, covered everything from stock picks to crypto trends. Pips was a nod to the smallest price movement in forex trading, a subtle flex of his expertise. With his boyish charm, tailored blazers, and knack for simplifying complex concepts, he amassed 100,000 subscribers by graduation. Brands sent him free watches, fintech startups offered partnerships. To his followers, he was a guru. To his family, he was a hero. But Daniel was restless. The legitimate path, grad school, a tech job, or a Wall Street gig, felt too slow. He wanted wealth now, not in a decade. His internship at Apex had shown him the shortcuts, and his coding skills gave him the tools. In his final semester, he began experimenting with a side project, a trading platform called Horizon Exchange. It was a sleek, user-friendly app that promised retail investors access to elite-level forex and crypto markets. Behind the scenes, Daniel coded algorithms to simulate trades, ensuring small, consistent wins for early users. He launched a beta version in May 2018, inviting a select group of Harvard friends to test it. The results were electric. His friend Sarah, a poli-sci major, turned $500 into $750 in a week. Raj, an engineering student, doubled his $1,000 investment. Word spread, and soon Daniel was fielding requests from strangers. He moved Horizon to a public beta, charging a $50 subscription fee. By summer, he had 2,000 users and a growing bank account. He rented a loft in Brooklyn, hired a small team of coders, and began marketing Horizon as the future of wealth. His YouTube channel became a megaphone with videos titled "Millionaires Mentor Millions" and "How I Made 10K in a Week." The truth, hidden even from his closest allies, was that Horizon wasn't what it seemed. The platform's trades were largely fictional, manipulated by Daniel's algorithms to show profits while funneling subscription fees and deposits into his accounts. He'd learned from Apex that perception trumped reality. Investors didn't care about the mechanics as long as they saw gains. To maintain the illusion, he allowed small withdrawals, which kept users hooked. The rest of the money flowed into offshore accounts he'd set up in the Caymans, a trick he'd gleaned from Callahan's playbook. Daniel justified it to himself. The market was a rigged game, he reasoned. Hedge funds and banks had been fleecing people for centuries. He was just leveling the playing field, giving ordinary folks a taste of the high life. Besides, he planned to go legit eventually, once he had enough capital to build a real empire. In his mind, Horizon was a stepping stone. Not a scam, but the line between ambition and deceit was blurring. In late 2018, Daniel caught the attention of a new player, Elena Volkov, a Russian-American influencer with 1 million Instagram followers and a shady past. Elena ran a network of wealth coaches who promoted dubious investment schemes. She reached out to Daniel after seeing his YouTube channel, proposing a partnership. "You've got the brains, Danny," she said over coffee in Soho. "I've got the reach. Together we could own this game." Daniel hesitated. Elena's operation was brazen. Her coaches used fake testimonials and doctored screenshots to lure clients, but her network was vast, spanning influencers, Telegram groups, and even a call center in Miami. Partnering with her could scale Horizon tenfold. After a sleepless night, he agreed on one condition. He'd control the tech and the money. Elena smirked. "Deal, Pips. Let's make some noise." Their collaboration was a rocket launch. Elena's influencers flooded social media with Horizon, ads branding it as Wall Street's best-kept secret. Daniel upgraded the platform, adding flashy dashboards and AI-driven market insights. He hired a PR firm to plant stories in Forbes and Business Insider, positioning himself as a fintech wunderkind. By mid-2019, Horizon had 50,000 users, with deposits totaling $20 million. Daniel's loft became a penthouse. His Honda became a Lamborghini. On Instagram, he posted photos with celebrities, captioned with cryptic phrases like, "Work hard, win big." But the bigger Horizon grew, the harder it was to maintain the facade. Some users, suspicious of the platform's opaque mechanics, demanded audits. Others, after losing big on trades, posted scathing reviews on Reddit. Daniel's team worked overtime to suppress dissent, flooding forums with fake positive reviews and threatening legal action against critics. Elena's call center, meanwhile, was relentless, cold-calling retirees and college students, promising guaranteed returns. One victim, a 70-year-old widow from Ohio, invested her life savings, $200,000, only to see it vanish. When she called Horizon's support line, a scripted rep told her the market had corrected. She filed a complaint with the SEC, one of dozens piling up. Daniel felt the pressure mounting. He hired a lawyer, a smooth-talking fixer named Marcus Tate, who assured him the SEC was too swamped to investigate a small player like Horizon. "Keep the money moving," Marcus advised. "Offshore accounts, crypto wallets, make it untraceable." Daniel complied, funneling millions into Bitcoin and Ethereum, then converting them back to cash through shell companies. He told himself he was protecting his empire, but deep down, he knew he was crossing a line. The turning point came in early 2020 as the COVID-19 pandemic gripped the world. Markets crashed and Horizon's users, desperate for stability, poured in more money, hoping Daniel's genius would save them. Deposits skyrocketed to $100. million, but the platform's fictitious trades couldn't sustain the illusion forever. Daniel and Elena devised a new strategy: VIP clubs. For a $10,000 buy-in, users got access to exclusive trading signals and personal coaching. From Daniel himself, the clubs were a Ponzi scheme, using new investments to pay fake profits to earlier members. Thousands signed up, lured by Zoom calls where Daniel, flanked by Elena, preached about seizing the moment. One VIP member was Jamal Carter, a 25-year-old barber from Atlanta who'd saved $15,000 to start his own shop. Inspired by Daniel's videos, he joined the VIP club, dreaming of financial freedom. At first, his account showed steady gains, $20,000, then $30,000. Elated, he invested another $10,000, borrowed from his sister. But when he tried to withdraw, the platform froze his account, citing technical issues. Desperate, Jamal emailed Daniel directly, pleading for help. The response, signed by a generic support team, blamed market volatility. Jamal's dream crumbled, and he wasn't alone. By late 2020, Horizon was a house of cards. Daniel's penthouse, once a symbol of triumph, felt like a gilded cage. He barely slept, haunted by the faces of users he'd met at promotional events, ordinary people who'd trusted him. Elena, sensing the endgame, pushed for a final cash grab, a $500 million global expansion fund. "One last score, Danny," she urged. "Then we disappear." Daniel resisted, but the numbers were staggering. He agreed, launching a glitzy campaign with billboards in Times Square and sponsored posts by A-list influencers. Meanwhile, the SEC was closing in. An agent named Lisa Harper, a tenacious investigator with a knack for unraveling fraud, had been tracking Horizon for months. User complaints, whistleblower tips from a disgruntled ex-employee, and suspicious bank transfers pointed to Daniel. Lisa's team traced Horizon's offshore accounts, uncovering a web of shell companies linked to Daniel and Elena. In January 2021, they obtained a warrant to seize Horizon's servers, located in a nondescript data center in New Jersey. Daniel got wind of the raid hours before it happened, thanks to a mole in the SEC. Panicked, he called Elena. "We're burned. Shut it down." They initiated a maintenance blackout, locking users out of the platform, and began wiping servers. Daniel transferred $50 million to a crypto wallet, planning to flee to Dubai, where extradition was tricky. Elena, ever the pragmatist, vanished with her cut, leaving Daniel to face the fallout. As FBI agents stormed his penthouse on a snowy February morning, Daniel stood by his floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Manhattan's skyline. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists, and his empire, built on code, charisma, and lies, collapsed. The headlines screamed, "TikTok tycoon to fraud kingpin, the fall of Danny Pips." Over 10,000 victims, $300 million in losses, and a 30-year-old mastermind who'd gone from Harvard's halls to a federal detention center. The fluorescent lights of the Manhattan Federal Detention Center buzzed overhead as Daniel Nguyen sat in a gray jumpsuit, his once impeccable hair disheveled. It was February 2021, and the world he'd built, Horizon Exchange, the penthouse, the Lamborghini, was gone. Handcuffed to a metal table, he faced his lawyer, Marcus Tate, whose tailored suit now seemed absurdly out of place. "They've got your servers, Danny," Marcus said, his voice low. "The SEC's got a paper trail a mile long. You need to start thinking about a deal." Daniel's jaw tightened. A deal meant prison, disgrace, the end of everything. He'd spent years outsmarting professors, investors, even regulators. He wasn't ready to fold. "What about the crypto?" he whispered. Marcus shook his head. "They're tracing it. You've got maybe 48 hours before they lock down the wallets." Daniel's mind raced. $50 million, hidden in a tangle of Bitcoin and Ethereum, was his last card to play. If he could get to Dubai, he could vanish. New identity, new life. But first, he had to get out. Outside, New York City churned with chaos. The news of Horizon's collapse dominated headlines, from CNBC to TikTok. Danny Pips, the fintech. Prodigy was now a villain, his face plastered across tabloids and X posts. Victims flooded social media with stories of betrayal, retirees who'd lost pensions, students who'd drained college funds, families facing foreclosure. A hashtag Judge Pip scam trended globally, with over 1 million posts. Protesters gathered outside Daniel's seized penthouse, holding signs that read "Thief" and "Justice for Horizon." The public's rage was palpable, but so was the fascination. How had a 25-year-old Harvard grad conned so many so fast? At the SEC's New York field office, agent Lisa Harper pored over Horizon's decrypted servers. A 38-year-old single mother. With a knack for untangling financial webs, Lisa had seen her share of fraudsters, Ponzi schemers, insider traders, crypto hustlers. But Daniel Nguyen was different. His platform was a masterpiece of deception, blending cutting-edge tech with old-school grift. The servers revealed a labyrinth of fake trades, doctored balances, and siphoned funds. "This kid's a genius," her partner, Agent Tom Rivera, muttered, scrolling through code. "A genius who's going to jail," Lisa replied. Lisa's obsession with the case was personal. Her mother, a retired teacher, had nearly fallen for a similar scam years ago, saved only by Lisa's intervention. Now, reading victim statements, thousands of them, she felt a familiar fury. There was Jamal Carter, the Atlanta barber who'd lost $25,000, his dream of opening a shop shattered. There was Maria Delgado, a 60-year-old nurse from Chicago, who'd invested $80,000 of her retirement savings, now facing eviction. Each story fueled Lisa's resolve. She wasn't just chasing Daniel. She was chasing justice for the lives he'd upended. The SEC's case was ironclad but incomplete. They'd traced $200 million of Horizon's $300 million in deposits to offshore accounts, but $50 million remained unaccounted for, likely in crypto. Daniel's partner, Elena Volkov, was another loose end. The influencer had vanished days before the raid, her Miami call center abandoned, her Instagram account deleted. Lisa's team flagged her as a person of interest, suspecting she'd fled to Europe or Russia. "Find her," Lisa told Tom. "She's the key to the missing money." Back in detention, Daniel was plotting. Marcus had smuggled a burner phone into the facility, a risky move that cost $10,000 in bribes. Late at night, hidden under his bunk, Daniel accessed a dark web forum where he'd stashed access codes for his crypto wallets. He transferred $5 million to a contact in Dubai, a fixer named Khalid, who promised a forged passport and a private jet. "Be ready in 72 hours, Khalid texted. Daniel's heart pounded. Freedom was close, but the clock was ticking. His bail hearing was set. For the next morning, Marcus had pulled strings, arguing Daniel was a low-flight risk with deep community ties. The judge, swayed by Daniel's clean record and Harvard pedigree, set bail at $10 million. Daniel's sister, Lynn, a nurse in San Jose, mortgaged her house to cover it, believing his tearful promises of innocence. "I'll fix this, Lynn," he said, hugging her outside the courthouse. She nodded, tears in her eyes, unaware he was already planning to disappear. Released on house arrest. With an ankle monitor, Daniel returned to a rented apartment in Queens, a far cry from his penthouse. The monitor's GPS limited him to a 500-foot radius, but Daniel was no stranger to bending rules. He'd studied the device's specs online. Its signal could be jammed with a $200 device from a shady electronics shop. On his second night, he tested it, slipping out to a bodega and back without triggering an alert. Emboldened, he contacted Khalid. "I'm ready. Get me out." Meanwhile, Lisa's investigation was gaining momentum. A breakthrough came from Horizon's servers, a hidden email thread between Daniel and Elena, detailing their VIP club scheme. The emails revealed Elena's role in recruiting influencers and laundering funds through crypto exchanges. One message, dated January 2021, showed Daniel's panic. "The SEC's sniffing. We need to pull the plug." Elena's reply was cold. "Take your cut and run, Danny. I'm already gone." Lisa cross-referenced the email's metadata with flight records, pinpointing Elena's last known location, a private airfield in Miami, where she'd boarded a jet to Lisbon. Lisa flew to Miami, coordinating with Interpol to track Elena. At the abandoned call center, she found a treasure trove, hard drives with client lists, scripts for cold calls, and fake testimonials. 1. Script instructed reps to target vulnerable demographics: seniors, single parents, recent graduates. Lisa's stomach churned. She also found a photo of Daniel and Elena at a yacht party, grinning like untouchable royalty. "Got you," she whispered, tucking it into evidence. Back in New York, Lisa's team cracked the crypto puzzle. Using blockchain analysis, they traced Daniel's $50 million to a wallet linked to a Dubai-based exchange. The wallet had just moved $5 million, a red flag. "He's planning to bolt," Tom said. Lisa alerted the FBI, who tightened surveillance on Daniel's apartment. But when agents checked, his ankle monitor's signal was erratic, jammed. A SWAT team stormed the apartment, finding it empty. Daniel was gone. Daniel's escape was a masterclass in improvisation. Using the jamming device, he'd slipped out at 3 a.m., meeting Khalid's contact, a wiry man named Amir, in a Bronx alley. Amir handed him a backpack with cash, a burner phone, and a fake Canadian passport under the name Michael Chen. They drove to a private airstrip in upstate New York, where a Gulfstream jet waited. As the plane took off, Daniel exhaled, the Manhattan skyline fading below. "Dubai," he murmured, imagining a new life. Villas, yachts, anonymity. But Lisa was one step ahead. Her team had flagged the Dubai wallet's activity, and Interpol had alerted UAE authorities. When Daniel's jet landed in Dubai, Emirati, police were waiting. "Michael Chen?" an officer asked, holding up the passport. Daniel's heart sank. Handcuffed and extradited back to the U.S. within days, he was back in detention, his $5 million seized, his dreams of escape shattered. The trial beginning in June 2021 was a media circus. Dubbed the Pips trial, it drew comparisons to Bernie Madoff and Jordan Belfort. Prosecutors, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Kim, presented a damning case. 10,000 victims, $300 million in losses, and a paper trail of fraud. Lisa took the stand, detailing Horizon's inner workings with chilling precision. "Mr. Nguyen built a machine to exploit trust," she said, holding up the yacht photo. "He preyed on hope." Daniel's defense was shaky. Marcus argued he was a young entrepreneur who got in over his head, blaming Elena for the scam's worst excesses. Daniel took the stand, his charisma dulled but still potent. "I wanted to democratize wealth," he said, voice cracking. "I made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt anyone." The jury wasn't swayed. After a 3-week trial, they convicted him on 22 counts, including wire fraud, money laundering, and securities fraud. Sentencing was set for September. For the victims, justice was bittersweet. Jamal Carter, the barber, watched the trial on TV, his $25,000 gone forever. He'd started over, working double shifts, but the betrayal lingered. Maria Delgado, the nurse, recovered $10,000 through a victim fund, but lost her home. "He stole my future," she told a reporter. A class-action lawsuit against Horizon's shell companies clawed back $50 million, but most victims saw pennies on the dollar. Daniel's family was shattered. Lynn, who'd mortgaged her house for his bail, faced foreclosure. His parents, once proud of their prodigy, stopped speaking to. "He was our hope," his mother wept at the trial. At Harvard, Daniel's name was scrubbed from alumni records. His scholarship fund renamed. The investment club he'd led disbanded, its members humiliated. In his cell, Daniel grappled with guilt. He wrote letters to victims, offering apologies, but most went unanswered. One reply came from Jamal, a single line. "You don't get to feel sorry." Daniel kept it, reading it nightly, a reminder of the lives he'd broken. He began studying law, hoping to understand the system that had ensnared him. But his old ambition was gone. The kid who dreamed of owning the world now dreamed of redemption, however distant. Elena Volkov remained a ghost. Interpol tracked her to Moscow, but Russia's non-extradition stance protected her. Lisa suspected she'd rebranded, running new scams under a new name. "She's a chameleon," Lisa told Tom. "But chameleons leave tracks." The SEC opened a global task force with Lisa at the helm, vowing to catch her. On September 10, 2021, Daniel stood before Judge Evelyn Carter for sentencing. The courtroom was packed. Victims, reporters, his family. Lynn sobbed quietly. His parents didn't attend. Rachel Kim read victim impact statements, each a dagger to Daniel's conscience. 30 years, Judge Carter declared, her gavel echoing. May you reflect on the harm you've caused. As marshals led him away, Daniel glanced at Lisa, standing by the prosecution table. Their eyes met, and for a moment he saw not anger but pity. It stung more than hatred. The boy who'd conquered Harvard, who'd charmed millions, was now inmate 47219-013, his legacy a cautionary tale etched in code and greed. The iron gates of FCI Otisville, a medium-security federal prison in upstate New York, clanged shut behind Daniel Nguyen on a chilly October morning in 2021. At 25, he was no longer the polished Harvard prodigy or the charismatic Danny Pips of YouTube fame. He was inmate 47219-013, assigned to a bunk in a concrete cell block that smelled of bleach and despair. His orange jumpsuit hung loosely on his frame, a far cry from the tailored blazers he'd once flaunted. The world outside had moved on, but for Daniel, time was now measured in head counts, chow lines, and the distant hope of parole in 2045. Otisville was a strange mix of white-collar criminals and hardened offenders. Tax evaders shared cells with drug traffickers, and Daniel, with his Ivy League pedigree, was an oddity. His first week was a gauntlet. A hulking inmate named Rico, who ran the block's black market cigarette trade, sized him up in the yard. "Heard you scammed millions, college boy," Rico sneered. "What's a rich kid doing in here?" Daniel kept his head down, murmuring, "Just made some mistakes," Rico laughed. "Mistakes don't get you 30 years. Daniel learned quickly to navigate the prison's unwritten rules. He bartered his coding skills, debugging a guard's laptop for extra commissary credits, and tutored inmates for their GEDs to earn respect. But respect was fragile. His notoriety as the TikTok tycoon made him a target. Some saw him as a snitch, others as a mark. One night, a shank-wielding inmate cornered him in the laundry room, demanding his commissary stash. Daniel talked his way out, promising to hack a betting pool spreadsheet, but the incident left him shaken. Prison wasn't just a cage, it was a jungle. Beyond the razor wire, the fallout from Horizon Exchange lingered. In Atlanta, Jamal Carter, the barber who'd lost $25,000, was rebuilding. He'd leased a small shop with a loan, cutting hair by day and studying business at night. But the scam's scars ran deep. Every time he saw a finance influencer on X, his stomach churned. He joined a victim support group where he met Maria Delgado, the Chicago nurse who'd lost $80,000. Over Zoom, they shared stories of betrayal and resilience. "That kid stole more than money," Maria said, her voice trembling. "He stole our trust." Jamal nodded, vowing to never fall for a guru again. The SEC's Victim Fund, funded by seized Horizon assets, distributed $60 million, but it was a drop in the bucket. Most of the $300 million was gone, laundered through crypto, hidden in offshore accounts, or spent on Daniel's lavish lifestyle. A class action lawsuit against his shell companies dragged on, mired in legal red tape. Some victims, like Maria, channeled their anger into activism, lobbying for stricter fintech regulations. Others, like a retiree named Harold Weiss, sank into despair, his $150,000 pension gone. Harold's daughter, a journalist, wrote a viral exposé titled "The Pips Plague," fueling public outrage and keeping Daniel's name in the headlines. At the SEC's New York office, Agent Lisa Harper was still hunting. Daniel's conviction was a victory, but Elena Volkov's escape gnawed at her. The Russian-American influencer, with her million-strong Instagram army and knack for vanishing, was the case's missing piece. Lisa's task force, now a joint effort with Interpol and the FBI, had tracked Elena to Moscow, where she was untouchable under Russia's non-extradition laws. But Lisa wasn't one to give up. A tip from a defector in Elena's network pointed to a new alias, Natasha Romanov, a wealth coach operating out of Cyprus. Lisa flew to Nicosia in January 2022, partnering with Cypriot authorities. Posing as an investor, she infiltrated a glitzy wealth summit where Natasha was keynote speaker. The woman on stage was unmistakably Elena. Same sharp cheekbones, same predatory smile, now cloaked in a blonde wig and a new accent. Lisa recorded her pitch, a rehash of Horizon's promises: "Join my elite circle for exclusive crypto signals." The crowd, a mix of retirees and young professionals, ate it up. Lisa's blood boiled, but she played along, wiring $5,000 to a Romanov Ventures account to gather evidence. Back in New York, Lisa's team traced the account to a web of Cypriot shell companies, mirroring Horizon's structure. They also uncovered Elena's new network, a Telegram channel with 500,000 members, a call center in Bulgaria, and influencers pumping her brand on TikTok. "She's running the same playbook," Lisa told her boss, director Emily Chen. "We need to shut her down before she disappears again." Emily greenlit an international sting, coordinating with Europol to freeze Elena's assets and raid her operations. In Otisville, Daniel was grappling with his own demons. The prison library, a cramped room with dog-eared books, became his refuge. He devoured texts on law, ethics, and psychology, trying to understand the choices that had led him here. He enrolled in a restorative justice program where inmates wrote letters to their victims. Daniel's first letter was to Jamal Carter. "I can't undo the pain I caused," he wrote, "but I'm trying to be better." Jamal's reply, curt and cold, arrived weeks later. "Words don't pay my bills." Daniel pinned it to his cell wall next to a photo of his sister Lynn, whose house was now in foreclosure because of his bail. Lynn visited monthly, her face etched with exhaustion. "Why, Danny?" she asked during one tense visit. "You had everything." Daniel's eyes welled up. "I wanted to be more than everything," he said. "I wanted to be untouchable." Lynn shook her head, leaving without another word. Her silence hurt more than any judge's gavel. Daniel's parents hadn't visited once, their shame too. Heavy. His mother sent a single letter, "You broke our hearts." He carried it in his pocket, rereading it until the paper frayed. A glimmer of purpose came through an unlikely source. Father Michael, the prison chaplain. A grizzled ex-lawyer turned priest, Michael saw potential in Daniel's intellect. "You've got a mind that could rebuild, not just destroy," he said during a counseling session. He encouraged Daniel to teach coding to inmates, a program funded by a tech nonprofit. Daniel hesitated. His coding had built Horizon's lies, but Michael's persistence wore him down. "Use your gifts for good," he urged. The coding class started small, with 10 inmates hunched over donated laptops. Daniel taught Python, breaking down loops and functions with the same charisma he'd once used on YouTube. His students, from a former accountant to a young gang member named Ty, were skeptical at first. "What's this gonna do for me?" Ty asked. Daniel paused, then said, "It's a way out. Not of here, but of who you were." By spring 2022, the class had a wait list, and Ty, now coding basic games, called Daniel Prophets. It was the first time in years Daniel felt something. Like pride across the Atlantic, Lisa's sting was closing in. In April 2022, Europol raided Elena's Bulgarian call center, seizing servers and arresting 20 operatives. The Cyprus account was frozen, and Natasha Romanov's summit was canceled when authorities issued an Interpol red notice. Elena, tipped off by a mole, fled to Istanbul, where she blended into the city's expat underworld. But Lisa's task force was relentless, using AI-driven blockchain analysis to track her crypto transactions. A $2 million transfer to a Turkish exchange gave them her location, a luxury villa in Beşiktaş. On a humid June night, Turkish police, guided by Lisa's intel, stormed the villa. Elena, caught mid-call with a new mark, didn't resist. "You're too late," she smirked as handcuffs clicked. "The money's gone." Extradited to the U.S., she faced charges of wire fraud and money laundering, with a trial set for 2023. Lisa, watching Elena's perp walk on CNN, felt a rare satisfaction. "One down," she told Tom Rivera. "Now let's make sure she stays down." Elena's arrest sent ripples through Daniel's world. In Otisville, inmates crowded around the rec room TV, whispering about the blonde mastermind linked to Pips. "Rico, the block's kingpin," taunted Daniel. "Your girl got nabbed, college boy. You next?" Daniel ignored him, but the news stirred something. Elena's capture meant the full scope of Horizon's crimes would be exposed, including his own. Roll. He wrote to his lawyer, Marcus Tate, asking about cooperating with prosecutors. "Maybe I can help," he wrote. Marcus was skeptical, but arranged a meeting with the U.S. Attorney's Office. In August 2022, Daniel sat across from Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Kim in a sterile conference room. His hands shook as he outlined Horizon's inner workings: fake trades, offshore accounts, Elena's influencer network. "I designed the algorithms," he admitted. "I knew it was wrong, but I thought I could fix it later." Rachel, stone-faced, took notes. "Why talk now?" she asked. Daniel hesitated, then said, "Because I see their faces. Jamal, Maria, all of them. I can't live with that." Rachel offered a deal: testify against Elena for a possible sentence reduction. Daniel agreed, knowing it could make him a target in prison. Word of his cooperation leaked, and by September, he was jumped in the yard, left with a fractured rib and a black eye. Father Michael found him in the infirmary, bruised but defiant. "You're doing the right thing," Michael said. Daniel nodded, wincing. "Doesn't feel right yet." Outside, the world was changing. Jamal's barbershop, Carter's Cuts, was thriving thanks to a local grant for scam victims. He hired Ty's cousin, a parolee, giving him a shot at stability. Maria, now an advocate, testified before Congress, pushing for a fintech victims bill that passed in 2023. Harold. Weiss's daughter turned her expose into a best-selling book, The Guru's Gambit, donating proceeds to victim funds. The Nuskas Pip scam hashtag faded, replaced by Saz Rebuild Together, a movement for financial literacy. At Harvard, Daniel's legacy was a cautionary tale. Professor Margaret Ellison, his old economics mentor, taught a case study on Horizon, warning students about unchecked ambition. Daniel Nguyen was brilliant, she told her class, but brilliance without ethics is a weapon. A scholarship in his name, briefly considered, was scrapped after alumni protests. By late 2022, Daniel's coding program was a quiet success. Ty coded a job-matching app for ex-inmates, earning a grant from the nonprofit. Daniel, now a mentor to dozens, found purpose in their progress. He wrote to Lynn enclosing Ty's app. Code. "I'm trying to fix something," he wrote. Lynn didn't reply, but she kept the letter, a crack in her resolve. Elena's trial loomed, and Daniel's testimony would be pivotal. Rachel Kim prepped him for weeks, drilling him on details. "She'll try to pin it all on you," Rachel warned. Daniel nodded, steeling himself. He'd face Elena in court, confront the partner who'd amplified his worst impulses, and own his role in the wreckage. It wasn't redemption, not yet, but it was a start. As winter blanketed Otisville, Daniel stood in the yard, snow dusting. His jumpsuit, he thought of Harvard's ivy walls, his family's pride, the victim's pain. The kid who'd hacked the market was gone, replaced by a man learning to rebuild, one line of code, one apology, one day at a time. The Manhattan Federal Courthouse was a fortress of glass and stone, its marble halls echoing with the weight of justice. On a crisp March morning in 2023, Daniel Nguyen, now 27, stepped into courtroom 12B, his orange jumpsuit traded for an ill-fitting suit provided by his lawyer, Marcus Tate. His wrists were cuffed, his face gaunt from 2 years at FCI Otisville, but his eyes burned with a quiet resolve. Today he would testify against Elena Volkov, the partner who'd supercharged his Horizon exchange scam, and face the ghosts of his past in a trial that gripped the nation. The courtroom was packed: victims, reporters, legal scholars, and curious. Onlookers filled the pews. Jamal Carter, the Atlanta barber, sat in the third row, his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on the defense table where Elena sat. Maria Delgado, the Chicago nurse, was beside him, clutching a notebook where she'd written her victim impact statement. The air crackled with anticipation. The Pips trial had been a media sensation, but Elena's trial, dubbed the Queen of CryptoCon, promised a new chapter in the saga of greed and betrayal. Elena, 35, exuded defiance. Her blonde wig was gone, her dark hair pulled into a sleek bun, her designer dress a stark contrast to Daniel's prison-issued attire. She'd hired a top-tier defense attorney, Olivia Grant, known for dismantling prosecutors' cases. Elena's strategy was clear: paint herself as a naive influencer manipulated by Daniel, the true mastermind. Her Instagram reactivated. under court supervision, posted cryptic messages about truth prevailing, rallying her remaining followers. But the evidence, emails, bank records, and Daniel's testimony, loomed like a guillotine. Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Kim, sharp and unrelenting, called Daniel to the stand. As he swore the oath, his voice steady but low, he scanned the room. Lynn, his sister, was absent, her forgiveness still out of reach. Lisa Harper, the SEC agent who'd brought him down, sat near the prosecution, her expression unreadable. Daniel's heart pounded. This wasn't just about Elena. It was about owning his role in the $300 million fraud that had shattered 10,000 lives. Rachel began with precision, walking Daniel through Horizon's creation. "Mr. Nguyen, describe how you designed the platform," she said. Daniel swallowed, his words measured. "I coded algorithms to simulate trades, showing fake profits to keep users hooked. Subscription fees and deposits went to offshore accounts I controlled." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Jamal clenched his fists. Maria scribbled furiously. Daniel continued, detailing how he'd met Elena in 2018, her proposal to scale Horizon, and their VIP Club Ponzi scheme. "She brought the network, Telegram. Groups, influencers, a call center," he said. "I built the tech." Olivia Grant pounced on cross-examination, her voice dripping with skepticism. "So, Mr. Nguyen, you're saying Ms. Volkov, a mere influencer, orchestrated this multi-million-dollar fraud while you, a Harvard genius, were just following orders?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "No, I made the choices, but Elena amplified them. She knew the trades were fake, pushed for bigger scams, and ran when the SEC closed in." Olivia smirked, holding up an email where Daniel bragged about hacking the market. "Sounds like you were in charge," she said. Daniel didn't flinch. "I was, and I'm paying for it." The testimony stretched over 2 days, each revelation peeling back Horizon's layers. Daniel described the fake dashboards, the doctored screenshots, the cold calls targeting retirees like Harold Weiss, who'd lost $150,000. He admitted to ignoring early warnings, user complaints, Reddit threads, his own conscience. "I told myself I'd go legit someday," he said, his voice cracking, "but I kept digging the hole deeper." Rachel played a recorded Zoom call from 2020 where Elena coached influencers to sell the dream, not the details. Elena's face remained impassive, but her lawyer's objections grew frantic. The prosecution's case was a juggernaut. Lisa Harper testified about her Cyprus sting, presenting Elena's Natasha Romanov alias, and seized Bulgarian servers. Blockchain experts traced $100 million through Elena's crypto wallets, some funding her Istanbul villa. Victim statements, read aloud, were devastating. Maria's voice shook as she described losing her home. "Ms. Volkov called me personally, promised I'd retire rich. Now I'm starting over at 62. Jamal's statement was blunt. They sold hope and delivered ruin. Olivia's defense leaned on deflection. She called character witnesses, Elena's former yoga instructor, a charity organizer, who painted her as a misguided dreamer. Elena took the stand, tears in her eyes, claiming she trusted Daniel's genius and never saw the fraud. "I thought we were helping people," she said, her voice soft. Rachel's cross-examination was brutal, confronting her with emails, plotting the global expansion scam. "You fled to Moscow, then Cyprus, then Istanbul," Rachel said. "Does that sound like someone who thought they were helping?" Elena stammered, her facade cracking. On April 15, 2023, after a 3-week trial, the jury deliberated for just 6 hours. Elena Volkov was convicted on 18 counts, including wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Sentencing was set for July. As marshals led her away, she shot Daniel a venomous glare, mouthing, "You'll pay!" Daniel looked away, his shoulders slumping. The courtroom erupted in applause, but for the victims, it was a hollow victory. Justice couldn't restore their savings or trust. Back at FCI Otisville, Daniel's testimony made him a pariah. Inmates, loyal to their own code, saw him as a snitch. Rico, the block's kingpin, orchestrated a shakedown, stealing his commissary and slashing his mattress. "Talkers don't last," Rico hissed. Daniel endured, focusing on his coding program. His student, Ty, had launched a job matching app, now used by parolees across New York. The nonprofit behind the program offered Daniel a part-time role upon release, a lifeline he clung to. "You're not your mistakes," Ty told him one day, echoing Father Michael's words. Daniel wanted to believe it. His cooperation earned a sentence reduction, shaving 5 years off his 30-year term. Parole was now possible in 2040 when he'd be 44. It was a distant hope, but it fueled his routine, teaching, reading, writing letters to victims. Most went unanswered, but Maria Delgado replied once, her tone cautious but not hostile. "I see you're trying. Keep going." Her words became a mantra, taped beside Jamal's stinging note and Lynn's photo. Lynn's silence persisted, but a small breakthrough came in June 2023. She sent a package, a used copy of The Alchemist, Daniel's favorite book from college, with a post-it note. "You're still my brother." No signature, no warmth, but it was enough. Daniel wept, clutching the book, vowing to earn her trust. He wrote back, promising to help her rebuild once he was out, perhaps through his coding program. She didn't reply, but he kept writing, each letter a step toward reconciliation. Elena's sentencing was a media frenzy. On July 10, 2023, Judge Evelyn Carter handed down 25 years, citing her callous exploitation of vulnerable people. Victims, including Jamal and Maria, spoke at the hearing. "You didn't just steal money," Jamal said, staring at Elena. "You stole dreams." Elena, defiant to the end, offered no apology, only a vague statement about learning from mistakes. Her assets, $20 million in seized crypto and properties, were liquidated for the victim fund, bringing total restitution to $80 million. It was progress, but the $220 million shortfall lingered like a wound. Lisa Harper watched the sentencing. From the back, her work on the case complete. The task force she'd led disbanded, but her fight against fintech fraud continued. She lobbied for the Fintech Victims Bill, now law, which mandated stricter oversight of trading platforms. At a conference in D.C., she met Maria, who thanked her for giving us a voice. Lisa, typically stoic, hugged her, whispering, "You gave yourselves one." Her next case, a crypto scam in Miami, awaited, but for now, she savored the win. By 2025, the Horizon scandal was fading from headlines, but its lessons endured. Jamal's barbershop, Carter's Cuts, expanded to 2 locations, employing ex-inmates mentored by Ty's app. He spoke at schools, warning kids about too-good-to-be-true schemes. Maria, now a community organizer, ran financial literacy workshops, her warmth inspiring others. Harold Weiss's daughter, whose book The Guru's Gambit hit bestseller lists, funded scholarships for scam victims. The Botch Rebuild Together movement grew, with ex-posts sharing stories of recovery. At Harvard, the case was a staple in ethics courses. Professor Margaret Ellison invited Jamal to guest lecture, his raw honesty captivating students. "Don't chase shortcuts," he told them. "They cost more than you think." A new scholarship named for Horizon victims supported first-generation students, a nod to Daniel's original promise, now redeemed by others. In Otisville, Daniel marked his 4th year, his hair flecked with gray at 29. His coding program had scaled, now in 5 prisons, with 200 inmates trained. Ty, paroled in 2024, ran the nonprofit's New York chapter, emailing Daniel updates. "You started this?" Ty wrote. Daniel smiled, a rare moment of lightness. Father Michael, nearing retirement, gave him a worn Bible inscribed, "Build anew." Daniel, no longer religious, kept it on his bunk, a symbol of hope. He began a memoir, Code of Lies, scribbling in the library. It wasn't about excuses, but understanding. Why he'd chased power, how he'd lost himself, and what he owed the world. Publishers expressed interest, but Daniel insisted any profits go to victims. "It's not my money," he told Marcus. The memoir, published in 2026, would spark debate. Some called it redemption, others a ploy. For Daniel, it was truth, raw and unfiltered. One spring day, a letter arrived from Lynn. She'd visited Ty's program, seen its impact, and enclosed a photo of her new home, bought with a victim fund payout. "I'm proud of what you're doing," she wrote. "Come home when you can." Daniel traced her words, tears falling. Home was a dream, but for the first time, it felt possible. On May 11, 2025, Daniel stood in Otisville's yard, the sky a brilliant blue. He thought of Harvard's ivy, his family's laughter, the victim's pain, and the code he now wrote for good. The kid who'd hacked the market was gone, replaced by a man who'd hacked his own soul, line by line. Redemption wasn't a moment, but a journey, and Daniel, with 15 years left, was still walking. Across the country, Jamal cut hair, Maria taught budgeting, and Lisa chased the next fraudster. Elena, in a Virginia prison, schemed for an appeal, her charm undimmed. The world spun on, scarred but stronger, a testament to those who fell, fought, and rose again. Thank you for joining the Pursuit Chronicles. Keep chasing your dreams and explore new horizons with us.